All right, if you're in the DevOps world or managing Kubernetes clusters, listen up. There is a major deadline looming on the horizon. I mean, the front door to your entire infrastructure is about to be retired, and the clock is seriously ticking to find a replacement. The choice you make here, it's going to impact your performance, your security, and maybe even your sanity for years to come.
And this is it. This is the announcement that sent ripples through the entire Kubernetes community. One of the most used ingress controllers out there has a firm end-of-life date. But you know, what happens after that date? Well, that's the real cause for concern. Just think about that for a moment. After March 2026, no new releases, fine. No bug fixes, okay. But no security updates? That is a whole different level of risk. We've already seen critical issues in the past. Stuff like the #10 ingress nightmare vulnerabilities, which showed how attackers could compromise entire clusters. So running unmaintained software in production after this date is, well, it's a huge gamble.
So, the problem is crystal clear. A critical component is going away, and pretty much everyone needs to migrate. The big question is, where do you migrate to? This has kicked off a massive race to find the best possible replacement.
Luckily for us, we've got some data to guide the way. A 2022 study from the University of Skövde in Sweden basically did all the heavy lifting. They ran a super detailed performance evaluation of the most popular open-source load balancers, and that gives us a fantastic impartial baseline to compare them. So this study puts 4 major players head-to-head. These are the tools that everybody's seriously looking at to take over from Ingress and NGINX. Let's meet them.
So, in the lineup, we've got hproxy, the absolute veteran of load balancing. Then there's NGINX, the web server that almost everyone already knows and uses. And then you have the newer, cloud-native challengers, Traffic, which is famous for how easily it works with microservices, and Envoy, a super high-performance proxy that's backed by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation.
Okay, so how do you actually figure out which one is the best? Well, the University of Skövde study gives us the hard data we need by putting these tools through a really tough testing gauntlet, all designed to measure pure performance. The researchers came up with 2 key scenarios. The first one was a pure stress test to measure throughput. Basically, how many requests per second can this thing possibly handle before it just gives up? And the second was a user simulation focused on latency. You know, how fast does it actually feel to a real user during a typical session? So they ran the tests, they collected all the data, and the results, well, they give us a pretty clear performance ranking. Let's take a look at how they all stacked up. Now, looking at the stress test results, the difference is, wow. It's pretty obvious. When you push these tools to their absolute limit to see how many requests they can handle, hproxy comes out as the clear winner. Envoy and Traffic are kinda close behind, but NGINX, according to this test, definitely lags in raw throughput.
And in that second scenario, the one measuring latency, the story is pretty much the same. Now remember, a lower bar here is better. It means a faster, snappier experience for your users. And once again, hproxy leads the pack with the lowest response time. It really was the top performer for user-perceived speed in this benchmark.
And just to put a hard number on it, when the researchers averaged the results from both of those scenarios, they found that hproxy had a 36% overall performance advantage compared to NGINX in their tests.
So when you just look at the raw performance data from this academic benchmark, we're talking both throughput and latency. The conclusion is pretty clear. One tool consistently outperformed all the rest, and the data points directly to hproxy as the top performer. So, case closed, right? Everybody should just switch to hproxy? Well, not so fast. Like with any big infrastructure decision, there's always a twist. Turns out, pure performance isn't the only thing that matters in the real world. And this is the exact question that teams are wrestling with right now. While that performance data is really compelling, there's another huge consideration we have to talk about. Remember that brutal deadline we talked about? Well, migrating an ingress controller isn't like flipping a switch. It means rewriting configurations, testing everything like crazy, and managing a really complex cutover, all while keeping your production services up and running. And this brings us right to the core dilemma. On one side, you have the performance king, hproxy, and it's clearly backed by the data. But on the other side, you've got a contender like Traffic that's making a totally different promise, an easier migration. They say they can natively handle the specific NGX annotations, you know, those little bits of code you use for rounding, that are probably all over your existing setups. And this is the direct claim from Traffic Labs. Their argument is that while other tools might be fast, theirs is the only one that actually minimizes the pain and the complexity of the migration itself by working with the ingress objects you already have.
That's their unique selling point in this whole race.
So ultimately, this brings us to the final decision. And it's not really about finding one single best solution for everybody. It's about you deciding what your team's biggest priority is right now.
Your choice really boils down to these two competing factors. Do you prioritize raw performance, optimizing for the absolute best speed and efficiency after the migration? Or do you prioritize minimizing the migration effort, making sure you have a smooth, low-risk switch before that 2026 deadline hits?
This is the decision on the table for DevOps teams everywhere. The academic data points to a clear winner on performance, but the reality of a tight deadline points toward the path of least resistance. The clock is ticking. So, what will you choose?